Now, the Africa Economic Conference is underway in Gaborone, Botswana. The three-day event is a collaboration between the Bank, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, and the UN Development Programme. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo joins us for the second day of the conference. So, Kaya, President Boko has challenged delegates to be bold in finding solutions for the continent. Today, what are you hearing there?
Well, very much so, Khayelihle. It's been a very interesting day where also there was a very clarion call from Botswana's new president, Boko, really calling on the delegates here to come up with solutions to really address a myriad of challenges facing the African continent, from issues around food and security, but also in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, that's also another very important issue around the debt crisis really facing so many countries in the African continent. But joining us now really to shed more light in terms of the African Development Bank's 10-year strategy, we're joined by Senior Director here, Caroline. So once again, Caroline, let's look at the day two here, obviously, a very key moment where we're trying to address all these challenges. Tell us about the key issues in terms of the strategy in tackling these issues.
Yes, well, thank you so much. We're here actually to present our 10-year strategy, which puts together our vision, the African Development Bank's vision of Africa. And what we see going forward is Africa, in fact, is the vision rests on four key words, and these four key words are prosperous, inclusive, resilient and integrated. So this is how we see Africa over the next 10 years. We know that there are many uncertainties, there are many interlocking and accelerating challenges like high unemployment, climate, debt, to name just a few, but our strategy rests on an optimism for Africa.
And just making sure that it's fully implemented, Caroline, tell us about really just in terms of the vision and making sure that it makes a difference on the ground.
Exactly. So what we see is that many of the organizations, many of the MDBs, many of the international organizations are recognizing that we need to work together more, of course, that's obvious, but also that we now need to pull in the private sector. So our role is really doing a public and private partnerships, but also enabling the private sector to be able to deliver on some of these challenges, which are also opportunities. Climate is a challenge, but it's a huge opportunity for investment. Our huge energy deficit, 600 million people don't have access to modern energy, is a huge market. So many of these challenges are huge opportunities for investment.
And you're absolutely right, Caroline, because, for example, we're right here in Botswana. It's incredibly hot here. Solar energy, a lot of opportunities in terms of the green energy, and as so many economies are trying to decarbonize and making sure that we try and reduce the emissions and stuff.
That's right. I mean, Africa is in fact part of the solution for global climate challenge. And we see in Africa, like you say, huge renewable energy resources. It's wind also, it's solar, it's wind. So the African Development Bank, we're investing a lot in renewable energy. And we're also partnering with the World Bank. We have a partnership called the M300, which is to be able to light up at least 300 million people over the next decade.
All right. Caroline, many thanks for your time. Of course, Khayelihle, quite a lot really happening here in Gaborone in terms of making sure that Africa is able to realize its potential, but also in the main, we do understand one of the major issues today that will feature quite prominently is around the reforms when it comes to the global financial architecture, a very main issue in the African continent. As you know, that for example, you have the UN Commission for Africa. Their head, Mr. Clever Gatete, really spoke about the challenges, the unsustainable debts facing the continent, really calling for these reforms. And as you know, that South Africa as well, at the recent G20 summit in Brazil, President Cyril Ramaphosa as well really made a clarion call to the world leaders to make sure that these reforms are really accelerated, but also issues around climate change as well. We know that the ramifications are incredibly harsh for the African continent, but also taking a very collective effort in making sure that we're able to realize those goals. So quite a lot expected here on day 2 of this particular conference. So with that, Khayelihle, back to you in Johannesburg.
And Kaya, just before I let you go, I must say that these conversations are also in a way just pointing to that Africa's time is now. Is that the sense you are also getting there?
Well, very much so. That has been a very overarching theme, that it's time for Africa to rise up. In fact, President Boko, when he addressed this particular conference, he said it's high time that Africa addresses all these challenges from the conflicts in so many parts of the continent, really saying that the continent is at the crossroads. And as we know, that when you look at the context of Southern Africa, quite a number of challenges. You're looking at the current situation, for example, in Mozambique, the post-election violence, where a political stalemate continues. And recently we saw the SADC leaders meeting in Zimbabwe, where they call for really just for more concerted efforts in addressing that particular crisis that is facing Mozambique.
All right, that's our reporter Khayelihle Khumalo in Gaborone, Botswana for us. Thanks for that update.